The story begins with a recording of framed photos of a married couple. The man behind the camera then shifts the focus on his wife, who is pregnant. He asks her if she thinks their kid will be a lawyer. She believes their kid might become a doctor instead. She seems certain of it. The husband, Nicola, replies that it means the child will have to be smart like his father. We keep seeing the photos of them through the scene, especially the wife, Viola. Shortly after, she is standing inside their house, looking out the window to see Nicola talking to his friend. She eerily starts looking at her reflection in a lamp, until her husband surprises her from behind. He asks Viola if she is ready, since everything is packed. The two seem to be going on a trip. He tells her a man named Hans will watch over their goldfish. Viola isn't thrilled. She doesn't like having him in their house when they are away. Nicola asks her if she wants him to take the keys back from Hans. She brushes it off, but is firm on her harsh opinion. The man did something on New Year's Day that she disapproves of. Nicola defends him by saying he was drunk. We see him collecting a bottle of antidepressants discreetly, not wanting his wife to see it. Apparently, Hans undressed inappropriately in front of Nicola's aunt, who did not care for it. After that, the couple leaves, and Hans discloses his plans to throw parties in their house. The man better be joking, or else, who knows what the couple would do to him. As the two drive along an open road, Nicola tells Viola they need to get their minds off certain things. He promises her they will have fun. He also vaguely mentions an incident, claiming that it was not their fault. Whatever it was, we might learn about it later. The husband simply wants his wife to be happy. Eventually, Viola wants him to stop the car for a break. Despite him saying they will arrive in 10 minutes, she still wants him to pull over. Viola walks quite a distance away from the car. However, instead of just using the toilet, she lights a cigarette. As she does, a figure watches her discreetly. Suddenly, a vehicle passes Nicola's car at a high speed. This startles him, and he spills his drink all over himself. He spews out profanities at the reckless driver. Meanwhile, Viola walks around in an interesting area. She is certainly taking her time with her break. Whoever is watching her continues to do so. In the car, Nicola looks at pictures of something strange on Viola's phone. At that moment, she slams on the window, scaring him again. He quickly tosses her phone back in her seat. Sitting inside, Viola asks if he went looking for her. He did not. It's not easy for her to get into this weekend mood, she says. Her husband is considerate enough not to force anything on her, and says nothing. Afterward, they arrive at a cabin in the woods. Cute is the word Viola uses to describe it. Apparently, it belongs to Nicola's uncle, who comes there to make wine. The man initiates the romantic act of carrying Viola in his arms, while singing in Italian. Inside the cabin, she looks at several animal heads that are mounted on the wall. The most interesting of them is the head of a boar. Following this, she observes a framed photo of a lady from the olden days. Nicola surprises Viola by popping a bottle of champagne behind her. He informs her the photo she is looking at is of his mother. She lost her life while giving birth to him. On a more positive note, he has a surprise for Viola. She has to wait in the room to see it. Later, Nicola comes back wearing a chef's hat and an apron. He's the one who will be preparing dinner. Viola gets to relax and be pampered. She oddly seems to get upset at this, and goes outside for a smoke. Shortly after, Nicola looks out the window to see her lying on the table. He takes this chance to take out that bottle of antidepressants and hide it in a more secure location. Then he joins his wife, who tells him to stop treating her like a porcelain doll. It seems like his caring nature bothers her. Although he tells her she is right, he probably doesn't believe it. He seems to be the kind of individual who thinks the husband should do 99% of the work, whereas the wife should sit back and relax. Viola is curious to know if anyone comes to this cabin. Nicola says his uncle does, but he hasn't been here in years. Viola is restless. She wants to keep herself busy. Nicola gives her the option of collecting water from the well. Viola gladly accepts. She heads over to the well and begins to collect water from a bucket to pour it into 2 jugs. She uses a funnel to avoid spillage. While she walks back with the water jugs, it looks like she is being watched again. Viola stops to look at an insect that suddenly flies away. It doesn't take long for her to feel like she is being watched or followed. She gets scared. Moving quickly with the 2 jugs is not easy. Therefore, she has to drop the extra weight to start running. She just wasted her time along with the water by doing that. Her nerves are a wreck as she sprints frantically. Not looking ahead of her, she bumps into a tree and falls unconscious. Later on, we see a ranger walking in the woods. He radios his colleague to say he hasn't found anything yet. The ranger gets radioed back with the message that he should be almost there. Soon he cryptically says he found one. The thing he found appears to be a carving of a triangle in a tree. This leads him to discover a deceased animal, His colleague disturbingly tells him he left the animal in that state for 2 days. Soon enough, he comes across an unconscious Viola on the ground. He moves her hair with his gun. It's uncanny how he isn't alarmed at the sight of a person in such an unfortunate condition. It's almost as if he was expecting it. Following this, the ranger sits in a cabin, typing a report, while Viola sits nearby, shivering. He later drives her to her cabin. When he says he will go inside to talk to her husband, she grabs his arm like she's afraid of it. However, that doesn't stop him. Entering the cabin, they see Nicola isn't around. We can only imagine how the man must be reacting to her being missing in the woods, considering how overprotective of her he is. It is nothing short of a living nightmare for him. The ranger says it's best to wait for Nicola's return. Viola does not like this idea. She wants to tell him what happened on her own. She desperately wants the ranger to leave, and resorts to coming closer to him in order to be more convincing. At that moment, a panicky Nicola enters the cabin. He comes to Viola, calmly asking her if she is okay. The ranger tells him there is nothing to worry about. He adds that Viola has low blood pressure. Nicola has been looking for his wife for hours. The ranger leaves the cabin, with Nicola following him out to thank him for his help. All the ranger replies with is, "It's his duty." Prior to driving away, the ranger tells Nicola to take care of his wife and feed her. Later, the couple sits near the fireplace. Nicola understands if Viola wants to go back home. Fatigue is her sole problem, she claims. Giving up on the trip due to something so insignificant would make her feel worse. She hates to admit it, but she loves the way he is taking care of her. Nicola shares with her that after his father's divorce, he was watching over his stepbrother Leo. Nicola was about 10 years old at the time. Viola knows it could not have been easy at that age. He shares how Leo would have fits of rage. He found him butchering lizards one day. The small boy stabbed them, one on top of the other. When Nicola caught him doing this, he instinctively slapped him. This made Leo throw his knife on the ground. He kept staring at Nicola while laughing, until he told him that they were just lizards. At least he didn't take his mom's life upon being born. Once he says this, Viola reacts negatively. She cannot believe the absurdity of Leo's statement. Nicola didn't even know how such a young boy knew about it. On that note, he says he lost the most important woman in his life without even knowing her. He does not think he will be able to bear it a second time, implying that Viola is the current most important woman. That is why he does his best, despite what happened to them. This causes her to cry. The next day, she wakes up on the couch. She calls out to Nicola. He's nowhere to be found, so she goes outside. The man eventually returns in his car, telling her to come with him. They head into the woods to an isolated lake. Nicola shares with Viola that his father would bring him there, and they would catch all sorts of fish. Viola jumps in the water with her clothes on. This prompts her husband to join her too. The couple starts engaging in intimacy shortly after. It appears to be going well until something feels off to her. She can't quite put a finger on it, and resorts to getting out of the water, with Nicola following her. They return to the cabin, where he puts a towel around her. She tries using her cell phone, but it doesn't work. Nicola leads her to another phone. Viola has to go outside to use it. As she does, her husband takes out a landline that he connects to a socket. Viola calls a doctor. Cryptically, she tells him, "It's exactly like yesterday. Something happened, which she does not specify." We observe Nicola is eavesdropping on the conversation by using the landline. Viola has a hard time saying what it is. She ends the call, with her confusion still not resolved. Hearing it, Nicola quickly disconnects the traditional phone. Come dinner time, the man prepares food again. He puts a modest portion onto both plates. The chicken is very good, according to his wife. In a short time, she discovers it was bought from a restaurant. It makes her laugh. Changing the topic, Nicola says he saw her somewhere the other day with her boss. He saw her going into his house and inquires what she was doing there. It wasn't his house, she claims. Plus, she was there for work. She wants to know what he is getting at by inquiring about this random incident. Nicola tries to maintain a calm demeanor, yet he soon lashes out in anger. He angrily states he's sorry about asking what his wife was doing in another man's house. He even slams the table. Viola becomes upset at his jealousy. She repeats the crucial words that she didn't enter her boss's house and the meeting was work-related. Nicola apologizes for his behavior. He reacted that way out of his immense love for her. He follows his statement by giving her a present. It's a bracelet that she instantly adores. He tells her he wants to try again. At that moment, she gets a flashback. Viola had given birth to a stillborn. She remembers seeing her baby lying lifeless, which caused her to suffer. Despite the pain that she feels with that memory, Viola agrees to try again. It's obvious that the two want to try getting pregnant again. At a different time, Viola is looking through an old book. It triggers a vision in her head. She stands in the woods alone, looking at her bloody hands. Something disturbing starts happening to it, and before we see what it is, Nicola snaps her out of that vision. He says he has a surprise for her. Viola wants him to give her some time. She excuses herself and cries in the bathroom. She also feels the need to take off the bracelet he gave her. Strangely, a green eye appears as she looks in the mirror. Shortly after, Nicola brings her into a room for her surprise. Upon opening her eyes, she sees the room has been decorated for a romantic night. The couple wastes no time. Nicola gets her into bed before taking out handcuffs. After restraining her to the bed with them, he engages in intimacy. With her restrained, he asks if she wants to tell him something now. The man asks a second question, if she liked it. He wears a somewhat angry face. Suddenly, a fun moment is quickly starting to look sour. Viola is confused by what he means. He asks about what happened the previous night when she didn't come back. She cannot remember. She just woke up in the cabin with the ranger. To Nicola, it feels like she's hiding something from him. He knows their situation has been hard, but he reminds her that she is his wife. She has sworn her loyalty to him. At this point, the helpless woman wants the handcuffs removed. Unfortunately, Nicola will only do it after she tells him what she did the previous night. He knows what she did. Being very upset, he summons an impressive amount of strength to ask her why she did it. From his point of view, their situation looks like this. He, the husband, brought her to the woods with the best intentions. Those intentions were for them to start living again, after that horrible event delivered a lot of damage to their lives. However, her mind was oriented around finding someone to have unfaithful fun with. The moment she starts talking, Nicola slaps her. She denies having done what he's accusing her of doing. What he really wants to know is if she liked it. He sits on a chair to have a smoke, while his wife pleads to be released. She even promises to forget about what he's doing to her. Desperately, Viola says he cannot do this to his wife. His next action is his worst one yet. He puts out his cigarette, making her scream in pain as he burns her skin. So much for being overprotective. That trait has officially been flushed down the toilet. He claims to have always trusted her too much. The enraged man strikes her several times and calls her disgusting things. The poor lady is bleeding now, but he has another surprise for her. He will do what people did in the Middle Ages when they returned from their crusades, realizing that their wives had been unfaithful to them. The women were purified with bucketloads of water. To save their marriage, the crazed Nicola places a funnel in Viola's mouth and starts pouring water from a jug into it. Once she starts suffocating, he snaps out of it. He is scared and agonizes over what he has done. He rushes to fetch medicine for his beloved wife. In the meantime, Viola wakes up. She manages to break the wood of the bedpost that she is handcuffed to. While he searches for the key to unlock the chest he hid the bottle in, Viola uses the other key to unlock her handcuffs. Unable to find it, Nicola kicks the chest in frustration. He resorts to break the chest open with an axe which he collects from outside the house. Meanwhile, Viola puts herself back in the position she was in, making it look like she never broke free. Her husband breaks the chest with the axe to take the bottle of pills. As he starts giving her the antidepressants, she surprises him by stabbing him in the neck with a piece of wood she broke off. As she tries to run, Viola gets pulled down to the floor by Nicola, so running gets downgraded to crawling. Her maniac husband dares to swing the axe at his wife as she tries to get away from him. He brings the weapon down, severing 2 of Viola's fingers. At this point, it's perhaps safe to say that their marriage is over. The good thing is that the injury she inflicted on him prevents the man from doing more damage. He returns to the room to collect a roll of tape, which he uses to wrap around his neck. Meanwhile, Viola leaves the cabin and ventures into the woods at night. In a few seconds, her maniac husband exits too. He screams in anger. Soon he finds Viola and continues to injure her further. The man yells, asking what he's going to do with her. He repeatedly tells her that he wants to have a baby. Viola cuts him off by spitting at him. Nicola retaliates by holding the axe to her neck, saying she needs to show her husband more respect. Instead, she slams a rock on his head. She follows this action by tossing his axe away before fleeing again. The maniac stands up and roars in the stillness of the night. At the other end, the ranger is drinking in his cabin. Suddenly, a frantic Viola barges in, prompting him to quickly equip his gun. Seeing her, he caters to the injured lady. In a short time, Nicola joins the duo. The ranger demands to know what happened to her. Nicola lies through his teeth, claiming she did this to herself. But Viola urges the ranger to shoot Nicola, because if he doesn't, Nicola will end them both. The ranger does not know who to believe. Afterward, Nicola asks him if he likes having Viola close to him. He demands to know if the man has been intimate with her. She is intimate with everyone, Nicola claims, adding more flame to the fire. The lady can't stand near a man without wanting to engage in the act. He continues to brutally assassinate his wife's character. Feeling pressed, the ranger starts reaching for his gun. Unluckily for him, Nicola collects a knife on the table and tackles the ranger to the floor. He manages to push the knife through his hand, causing the poor ranger to scream in pain. In a flash, Nicola ends the unfortunate man's life. For his victory, Nicola rewards himself with a sophisticated axe, which he collects from the wall. His wife is now outside, suffering from her wounds. She gets disturbing flashbacks of being in the hospital. In the meantime, Nicola walks through the woods with his new axe, singing in Italian. Viola comes across a car attached to a trailer. A man comes out, and she pleads to him for help. She informs him of her situation. The man assures her that she is safe with him, but he's too quick to go back on his word. He takes her by the hair, saying she showed up out of nowhere, wanting his protection. The man wants her to pay for his protection. The payment he has in mind is him. While he does it, he unexpectedly gets his arm cut off. In shock, he turns around to see an enraged Nicola, who finishes off the wicked man. This gives Viola the chance to escape. Her husband fires the ranger's gun for her to hear. In pursuit of his wife, Nicola enters a building. He yells out that he knows he took it too far, and that he's sorry. But Viola doesn't fall for his apology. She comes behind him to strike the man. Subsequently, she pushes him off the floor, and he falls a long distance to the ground. Viola rushes to collect the gun, but a persistent Nicola does not let her. He gets her on the ground to slap her again. Yet she saves herself by slamming him with the gun before pointing it at him. Nicola cries, saying he only wants to help her. He wants his wife to wake up. However, the lady, who has had enough, ends up emptying several bullets into her husband. She stands there, the cry of a baby ringing in her ears. Another ranger approaches her cautiously. Viola just looks at an insect that lands on her injured hand. After this ordeal, we get a flashback of Nicola sitting at the doctor's office. The doctor informs him that Viola has been traumatized due to giving birth to a stillborn. Her psychological state has been seriously compromised. At that moment, we see it was Viola who told her husband that she saw him with his boss. Instead of Nicola confronting her, we see her watching them on the day it happened. The entire conversation at the table unfolds in reverse. Apparently, Viola injured her husband instead of him injuring her. The doctor tells him that in the next few weeks, he should expect to witness drastically different behaviors emerge in Viola. She may attack him with jealousy, and may possess a need to feel protected. Another truthful flashback discloses Viola faking her injury on the ground. She had yelled to get the ranger's attention. When she entered his cabin near the end, she was the one who took his life, not Nicola. The man who violated her was not real. He was a reimagined version of Nicola. The doctor continues to say that Viola's condition is not treatable with medication, because it is psychological. Nicola wants to know what all this means for his wife. As the doctor starts naming several serious conditions that she will develop, Nicola instantly starts crying. All the damage we observed him inflicting on Viola was truly her doing it to him. She had stabbed him repeatedly in bed. The doctor suggests that he take her away from the place that reminds her of her traumatic past. Unfortunately, it won't be a cure. After she took her husband's life, her fingers, perhaps to rid herself of the ring on it. That symbol of marital status must have been too difficult to cope with. The final moment has a crying Nicola, wheeling Viola away from the hospital. He assures her not to worry. He will take care of her. He says they will go to his uncle's cabin for a few days, and everything will be okay. It looks like he truly was the perfect husband after all.